Well, here we are, the Hunt Land Man podcast brought to you by Southern Ag Credit. And speaking of Southern Ag Credit, our first guest here on the podcast, Alex Reiser with Southern Ag Credit. How you doing, Alex?
Man, I'm good, man. What a pleasure. I was, excited the whole way here. I think I was riding here. I was talking in my rearview mirror like, all right, I'm a slave priest. We're going to talk rack bucks and hunting. And, man, I played this all in my head. And now to be here, I'm like a kid on Christmas. So.
Well, pleasure to have you here, Alex. Kind of give everybody a backstory with mine and Alex's relationship. Alex is with Southern Ag Credit. He is what is your title?
So I just got promoted this year to vice president in lending.
Big dog.
I know. I felt good. It kind of came as a surprise. So I'm the vice president in lending at Southern Ag Credit.
Well, so Alex actually used to have my job. Alex actually worked for a couple different real estate companies, Mossy Oak Properties and then Tom Smith Land and Homes, and actually helped start Four Corner Properties.
So yeah, I come from y'all's side, man. There's an appreciation for it that goes into every deal, that every deal has its own little care that's got to go with it. But I started with Tom Smith Land and Homes, moved to the Mossy Oak Properties side, and then we helped start a company called Four Corner Properties that seems to be doing pretty successful today. Very happy about that. And
yeah, some great agents at that company. I actually did a really large deal with Joseph Bradley.
Good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, great guy. Couldn't ask for anybody better in the business, but great relationships built up that just kind of how things work out in life, I guess. You know, it was like, man, you found yourself in the realtor world, you found yourself competing more, but on this side of it, when I got the opportunity to come to this side, you got to be involved. And it's just such a fun side on this side. It's exactly the same. Go out, shake every bush you can, get involved with anybody you can, have conversations and see what you can do. But man, there's just, there's a really fun side to this. It's kind of the yin and yang of it, but being able to be involved with those deals and keep those relationships, man, it's special. It really is special.
So from my side, I consider Alex on my team, and look, Alex will tell you this, he's not my only banker on my team. And what I consider my team, of course, me and New Ryan and Lori, I call us the dream team. Ryan's over here laughing about that right now. But, if you're on my team, you're either one of my attorneys, surveyors, appraisers, people that help me, bankers, like I said, people that make my job easy. And I defend my team. If clients or other agents or people, he ain't doing his job. No, my team does his job. And Alex is on my team and does his job good. Now, he's got a bunch of good counterparts that work for him, Nathan and Austin and a bunch of that crew. Great guys, and we do deals with them also. I saw Austin at a closing earlier this week that Alex and I had. But from my side of the world, from the a guy comes to me, Slade, I want to buy 100 acres in Wilson County. You name the track. And he says, Slade, who do you recommend for financing? My kind of go-to is I send them, depending on every deal, but a lot of times I send them Alex's contact, and then I send them a conventional bank, my buddy Stephen Garrett, and there's a couple of others with Trustmark and things like that. Because, sometimes the other side of the equation works. Now, most of the time for what I do, the land bank's hard to beat. And people say, Slade, why do you send them Alex's number? Why do you send them Steven's number, whoever? It's because that's who I have my loans with. And why wouldn't I recommend somebody that I trust with my own money? That actually would be, what's the word I'm looking for? It would be foolish for me not to, or because that's, if I wouldn't put my money with you, how can I recommend somebody else?
That's right. One thing, and I remember this in my realtor days, was the 5 fiduciary duties.
Right.
One of them is care, and it's exactly what you're practicing there. I mean, handle with care who you're dealing with. You want to see them get the best deal, but you're on the front lines of everything you're doing, Slade. That you got to know. What's best for them. And a lot of times you can answer that question yourself, just sitting there in the field with them. But it's exactly that part of that fiduciary duty to say, I'm not putting my name on it unless I know it. And I think that's what you realize in what we do. And I think Slade, heck, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but it was like 16, 17 loans you sent to Southern Ag Credit last year.
In 2020.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was an absolutely amazing year, and to be able to do that, we asked that of our borrowers to we have an ambassador program for people listening.
Let me stop you. What Alex is about to tell you about the ambassador program, don't think you have to be Slade Priest, the hunting land man, or Scott Lindsay, or any other land guy out there. If you are a borrower from Southern Ag Credit, you can do what Alex is about to tell you about.
Right, we take pride in this. This is an ambassador program that there's no cap on this. We pay a $500 referral fee. They can be buying a home site lot, which we do some of that, but they can be buying a tractor, anything, cows, anything, land, anything they want to. But as long as, if you're on the books at Southern Ag Credit, we're paying $500 referral fees. And I've been around for a little bit now that I think you reap the benefits of it the best. But you can be, exactly what it is, an ambassador to it, to tell the audience, you don't have money being paid. These banks ain't paying you money back. So as much as I appreciate, like I said, these other banks, some of these commercial lenders can do things better. But man, ambassador program to increase business, and keep referring it through. And those are the ones that, man, when they come to my desk and say, hey, Slade Priest sent it, or Joseph Presley sent it, or whoever, those, what we call KRCs, we talked about before the show, was a key referral center. Those are the ones that were like, all right, we're going to put this other deal aside, let's grab it. Slade Priest's name is on it. So it's just like what you're talking about. We want our guys to know that, especially when you're on the books with us, if you're fighting for us, we're going to fight to get it to the front lines. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
And I think, Alex knows this because he was on the real estate side of it. You need an agent or a banker working for you that has a team.
Absolutely.
Okay, and it works I send people to Alex. Alex sends people to me. I mean, Alex is, I've helped Alex with some of his own personal property. So, if it's in my area, because Alex, of course, has areas he works with other agents he works with, but it's in, say, Wilkes or Amite County where we do a lot of stuff together. If a guy says, look, I'm thinking about buying some property over there, or I'm thinking about selling some property over there, of course, and I know he does, and I hope he continues to do it. Alex recommends me and my team or somebody in our office. So it's a back and forth relationship. Coming from back to Alex was a realtor, so Alex gets it. And man, gets it does not even come close to what that means. And we work hard in this business. I mean, your business, our business. We're available. My phone's probably going off its own silent right now. We're available a lot of times. And, we don't abuse each other by any means. But look, if you're going to be on my team, we're going to get some work done.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, think about what we've been through just in our, few years here, me and you. Heck, I can remember a deal last year. We got to the closing table and realized we had a problem. But what did we do? We took a step back, and you went right to work. And I don't want to divulge any names. I don't know if that's okay.
Are you talking about the one?
The one we closed the second one.
I was thinking about a different one.
No, I'm talking about the one that sticks in my brain when we went to in Natchez, and it kind of fell apart there at the table, and this whole look across even the attorney's face, and when I took it all in, you just, man, we're going to fix this. I remember you looking at the bar, your client saying, we're going to fix this. And he was so frustrated.
And he had every right to.
Absolutely. But what did we do? We regrouped, got back into the huddle, and we found him something else, and found him something better.
A better property at a better price.
And we closed that deal, last week?
Without divulging any names or information, we got to a closing and found out a part of the property that we were buying was not for sale.
That's right.
And it was not on us. We were representing the buyer and not blaming any names, but anyway, there was not, the due diligence was not done on the front end by the listing agent.
Right. And kudos to that attorney, man. He found that survey sitting around somewhere lying around in the courthouse, and we found that at the closing table. But man, you go back to it, and we talk about real estate and what it takes. And I'm not knocking any house realtors. I think they're a great house.
I know where you go with this.
But what we had to do to not only, first start with you, find another piece of property, better property.
Keeping the client from not dropping us like a hat.
Not to mention, that was a competition deal for me. And it speaks volumes to say they stuck with us, they trusted us, we got to the end game, and he's going to be better for it altogether. And he's happy as can be.
He's extremely happy. He's going to list his other property with us.
That's right. Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. There is an appreciation on my side coming from it. As a broker and a realtor, that none of this ever sells smoothly. Not all. The
ones that do, you're always like, okay, something's about to happen.
In the baseball term, the fat one down the middle to hit out of the park. It just sometimes I just don't believe it really exists in our line of work. But man, that's just an example there. Where you have to have a team to bring it back together, because we all were bought in to help him do what he needed to do. And he's happier for it. He's absolutely happier for it.
And I was referencing, Alex was talking about it. I thought he was talking about another deal. We got to the day of a closing. I was on the way home from showing the property. We had to close in that afternoon, and I had to drive to, what was it, Madisonville or something like that? I had to go get some affidavits signed in Madisonville.
It was Madisonville. That's exactly what it was.
I had to go meet at a restaurant, eat while waiting on the client, get some stuff signed so we could get it closed. And look, hey, I'm fine with it. The other day, we couldn't get a company on the line that had to sign off on a loan, and I was looking up flights to Ohio because we had to get this deal done. I preached this to New Ryan back here behind the camera, is to close deals that nobody else can close, you have to be willing to do things nobody else can do.
How many loans have we closed or deals have we closed not in an attorney's office? I mean, there's times where we've met beforehand, or I've rode and met with them folks at their house and done different things and brought paperwork back. But
before and after, yeah.
I can remember attracting, I think in Yazoo County we had to do the exact same, we got everything.
We went, what did we go to? The bank first, and then we went somewhere after that and closed it. I can't remember.
I do remember
at
that.
the attorney's office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the nice attorney's office.
Yes, that's right. So it's just, it keeps speaking on the topic we're talking about. There is this. Our office is open from 8 to 4:30, but realistically, it's open from midnight to midnight. You got to be available. You got to answer phone calls. You got to do so you got to go above and beyond that. It's really special.
And this, I would say the three most, the agent, the banker, and the attorney. We have some great attorneys that work with that do this exactly the same. Mm-hmm. In fact, I sometimes think Alex and the attorney's jobs is harder than mine sometimes. I guess I do all the work on the front end, but when it comes to the 30 to 45 day closing, their job gets a little bit harder.
That's right.
But, coming back to, let's just talk about Alex and Southern Ag Credit. There's a lot of good loan officers with Southern Ag Credit, and they're a lot the same in the sense of, if you're going to buy land, you probably need to be with a land bank. Every once in a while there's a conventional bank, there may be a situation, and kudos to Alex and the Southern Ag team. The tract that I own, actually right here, was fortunate enough to get it paid down, and then I did a line of credit on it. And Alex said, listen, for what you're trying to do, we may not be the company. And that, for the lack of a better term, took money out of Alex's and the company's pocket, but he knew that was best for his borrower. And why wouldn't you want to work with a team that's putting your interests above theirs? And that's what they do time in and time out.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, this is the best. I'm not trying to be biased by any means, but we've got great sister companies, and that we friendly compete with. But this team,
and you're talking about other farm credits.
And I want to talk a little bit about that just for our nationwide listeners. But this team at Southern Ag Credit is amazing, and I've learned so much from you talk about Austin alone. I got him on speed dial. This is a guy that not only knows credit but knows compliance better than anybody I've ever seen. He's got a special place and he cares. But and that goes across the board. Every loan officer, every team member of the Southern Ag Credit team is just they're exceptional. That it's special to see what they want to do and how they want to achieve things. And we just come off another record-breaking year at Southern Ag Credit, and in the middle of a pandemic, and it got tough at times where appraisers were tight because they were doing 30 loans, and attorneys were having trouble. I mean, we gelled together and worked together. But I want to go into that a little bit for our nationwide listeners. People need to know that farm credit's in every state. And, people need to know who they are. Because
now they got Texas Farm Credit. It's a Missouri Farm Credit.
There's different districts, which we're under the Farm Credit Bank of Texas, based out of Austin. First South Farm Credit, who's down here, I believe out of Alabama, their district. Louisiana Land Bank's in our district with Farm Credit Bank of Texas, but every state itself has its own individual branches of Farm Credit. They all have their different names. We can name them different at each branch. So if you're in Kansas and you're up there looking, I always tell people the first thing, and I understand their thought process. They've been banking with these folks. They got their checkings and their savings accounts, so they call the commercial bank. That's their first thing. And a commercial bank can come up with something that can fit their needs, so to speak. But what Farm Credit offers, and a lot of people just the educational side to call your Farm Credit, and that goes for realtors too. Any of the realtors listen to this, United Country guys, or your own, even your small operational real estate companies need to be reaching out to their Farm Credits in their state. There's so much that they can provide and so much they can offer to create a new relationship and help in their process of expanding their business. And it's all about you guys are paid on commission, so you want the best guys there. So
and what Alex is talking about, and if the agents out there listen to this, is call your Farm Credit guy. Where do you think we get a lot of our comps?
That's right.
And you're asking them to do a couple hours worth of work, to send you some comps, or an hour worth of work. Send them some business when you do that.
But that's exactly right. The excitement that if I get a call, and I know I send you comps, but Ryan Wassman, the other day, y'all's new agent there, called me the other day. The excitement when he says, "Hey man, I need comps," that means he's thinking about me. And we're glad, and that's any Farm Credit. Let's go see what we can find for him and get him there, because now.
Wonder where Ryan got your number?
I don't know. Some guy. The hunting land man? Yeah, but that's a prime example. I mean, and that relationship has started because as eager as you are to speak to me, I'm as eager as to speak to you. And every time a land realtor calls me, it's just like, I stop everything. And I'm a guy that don't sit at my desk and talk. I have to walk around, so I'll walk around in circles in my office. And we may talk for 30, 45 minutes. Yep, earpods. I got the earpods as well. And so there's a lot of excitement when I get a call, and even from smaller realtors who are doing homes and different things. But education, educating them on what we're doing. It's Farm Credit is something special that a lot of people need to learn about through our time
across the country. And speaking of across the country, Alex actually financed Ryan and I bought a tract of land, a timber buck up in Missouri, in Milan, Missouri. It's a tract that Ryan and I bought, and Alex actually in Southern Ag Credit financed something. I guess Missouri, they were in the South at one time.
Yeah, that's right. And where'd we close that one? Remember that?
I got it in my office, if I remember right.
Attorney, no, we didn't have to go to Missouri. We handled everything right there, and easy signing, easy go. I tell people the Farm Credit and Southern Ag Credit more so. When people are shopping around for loans, at Farm Credit you're going to get the old school feel with a new touch, if that makes sense.
Man, he practiced that.
I did. That mirror practicing around. But seriously, we don't. Like a lot of lenders, when you're buying a home or doing things, they're selling to a secondary market. You may have a loan with your local bank, but then they sell it to Bank of America, and you never have that relationship with a loan officer ever again. So if you're thinking about it, when I say the old school feel, we're there. You're going to have my cell phone. Hey, what do you need? Text me, call me. We don't sell them, and with that new school feel where, we're pretty heavy in our technology now, so we're not that far behind the rest of the banks on the technology side.
And, as far as they're competing and things like that, of course, Southern Ag Credit has great rates, which rates aren't everything, the terms, and, it all comes back, but they're, I'll say this, extremely competitive on everything they do, and they'll get competitive down in the dirt if they have to make the deal work.
Absolutely. One thing we need to talk about, we haven't talked about it, that there's two things that Farm Credit's going to be different in. One, 95% of the time we're doing the appraisal in the house. We have all Farm Credits have a full staff appraisal.
And if you have never dealt with that, you don't know how important that is.
But why is it important? And the one reason why it's important is the commercial lenders we talk about that people go talk to. They're going to third party it out to somebody they never have that they don't know, and
because they can't know. It's banking regulations, and look, if there's bankers listening, I may say some of this wrong, but there's regulations, they can't talk to these appraisers and they're just on a list. And why it's so important is you send the wrong appraiser out that doesn't know anything about pine timber or farm ground or maybe there's areas I sell hunting land in that for whatever reason, this area, because of the deer or the turkeys or the habitat or whatever, it sells for more. And that's the kind of stuff Southern Ag Credit in-house appraisals, the guys walking them over there, they know, and they know the local realtors and the people, and they get that type of information. And if you just get a guy off the shelf, nothing wrong with these people. I'm not picking them, but if that's not what they do every day, like a land realtor.
That's right. Recreation is a value that's got to be recognized. And with your commercial lenders, you won't really see a whole lot there. But when you're buying a tract in Wilkinson County, Amite County, Yazoo, these big buck counties, you'll see some writings in some of those appraisals where, hey, this is an area known for its recreational hunting, therefore the value is blank. And, that's just something, commercial lender, you're going to get it and they're going to get it back. So, man, there's nothing we can do. And
it's funny. I say this loosely, and I apologize to any of my appraisers that listen. I consider some of the best appraisers, the realtors out there, the ones that know what they're doing. And I've heard people say it, man, how can we put gold bullion behind white-tailed deer or turkeys and stuff like that? How can we actually put a value behind that? Let me list the right track with the right deer on it, and I'll show you how we'll put a value behind
Absolutely.
it. And look, and to the guy that says we can't put a value behind the deer, I said, where do you hunt? Oh, why do you hunt there? Oh man, we got big deer, whatever. I'm like, yeah, it has value. So don't tell me it don't have value.
That's right. Ask the person buying it why they're buying it. Majority of the time, the person, I'm buying me a hunting tract. It has to be recognized. And I think that's, I know Southern Ag Credit, and I can speak for most farm credits, it's something that is a benefit factor for anybody buying. It's a benefit for, the realtors, anybody involved. So, that's one thing that is huge, first and foremost, is the appraisal. But then the other part, man, that I love talking about, it's one of my favorite, it's the hardest thing to sell at Farm Credit, but it's our best selling point, is the patronage dividend program, the stock program. It's hard to sell on the front end, so when you're quoting these rates.
It sounds too good to be true.
That's right.
Hard to say.
And I'm already getting calls now, so what Farm Credit does and the Southern Ag Credit does is we are a cooperative. So when you're getting a loan, one of your closing fees is a $1,000 purchase of stock, 200 shares of Southern Ag Credit stock or whatever farm credit you're with. And that thing's paying an annual dividend back that people, if you actually factor the numbers, it's Southern Ag Credit, you're lowering your interest rate. So, somebody had a 4.5% rate on investment recreational real estate and they're getting a dividend check back every year that they don't even think about till it comes. And they apply that check back to it. It's, lowering their interest rate almost 100 basis points at Southern Ag Credit. And how awesome. I mean, just mailbox money.
So to put this in redneck slang terms, they're paying you every year. You get and look, I'm preaching to the choir here. You get a check in the mail. Basically, it's about one payment, one monthly payment.
The way we've been saying about a payment and a half back. You
heard that new Ryan. They're paying you to bank with them.
That's right. It's you hit the nail on the head. You have no appraisal fee. We're paying you money back. So we're trying to find every which way to get you on the books and we're paying an ambassador $500. So the potential to make money through Southern Ag Credit is unbelievable. But and it's funny when we sit here and I have conversations and people say, 4.5% rate and getting 1% back, and they don't think nothing of it on the surface. February 15th, January, end of January, about when the patronage checks go back, I'll get a call, and it already started the day. People want to know where they're at, but when they get them, they go, "Hey, I got a check from you. What's this for?" "Well, Mr. Barr, that's your patronage check." "Are you sure it's right?" And I said, "Yes, sir, it's right." "Hey, man. So how's this work?" And they never paid attention on the surface when you're selling it to them. That's why I said it's the hardest thing to sell. And then you notice the next year they'll call, "Hey man, I got that check last year. When are y'all expecting to go out?" And it's like, "Hey man, they're coming. I'll let you know." And like I said, so it's hard to sell, but it's the best selling point we have. So, I'd like to think we're always going to be better on the rate side, but we're definitely going to be better on the rate side when you account for the patronage program. Not to mention, when you pay your loan off, there's no prepayment penalty with our loans. You pay that loan off, you're getting that $1,000 back. We refund that back to you we just apply it to the principal balance, but you're getting that $1,000 back. So essentially it's a holding fee that's going to pay tenfold over the life of the loan. I mean, just in your first year for most loans, it's going to pay over $1,000 back that you already bought in with. So, it's, but that's every farm credit. That's why I think it's important that all of your listeners across the country know, hey, they all practice a cooperative. Now, they may not pay back as much as the next person, but you're going to get something back, usually in the form of a patronage.
Well, when me and Alex talked about doing this podcast, something I wanted to start off. So we do the Hunt Land Man podcast. We're all about rack bucks and real estate, and we want to educate our listeners to, how to afford what I call the American dream. Is own a piece of recreational land yourself. Mm-hmm. All right, Alex. I'm in my early 20s. I'm new Ryan over there. I'm thinking about, okay, I want to own a tract of land one day. Mm-hmm. But of course, I may not be there yet, and I may have to start small. Let's take very specific on this topic, and let's talk about, okay, what can I do now to make sure, first of all, I'm smart with my credit score. I'm smart with my finances, so I can do that sort of thing. And let's just let's take a guy that was me and you at 22 years old and say, hey, by the time I'm 30, I want to have a tract of land. Shoot.
Right. First and foremost, going back to the 22-year-old self of, I wish I knew then, what I knew now, is saving money. I was the worst. I was a realtor. You get the big old $10,000, $11,000 check. 23 years, 24 years old, you're like, I got money. You don't account for taxes, but always factor in when you're coming into Southern Ag or any farm credit, and this is really any lender. They're going to want 15 to 20% down. So start thinking in those aspects of, start saving that, that pillow money or whatever people want to call, but that's always the biggest hurdle, is the 15 or 20% down. Now, other things come into factor, but it's all about size of the loan. I mean, I love what we do at Southern Ag, and we have what we call a fast track loan or an ag fast loan, which takes in some information, but it doesn't really give a critical breakdown where you're going to be so critical on these people's financial part. It takes into account different things, but it's always going. I'll go back to it. It's always going to be the down payment, 15 to 20% down. Now, as far as the rest of it goes, always be credit mindful, especially on smaller loans. When we talk about the smaller loans, $500,000 and less.
You're talking about being mindful of y'all's loans?
Or be mindful as a consumer, or somebody coming to get a loan, be mindful of your own personal FICO scores. A lot of people don't think of it, and they think, oh, if I go 30 days late on a credit card, it'll be okay. And those things factor into it, because when we pull those FICOs, for your farm credits that are doing loans, we're going to be a little bit more harder on that aspect of it. I'm just going to be completely transparent. We're going to be a little bit more critical on you when you have late payments, because we have a higher credit score, what we require, but there's a reason for that. We're paying you an annual dividend. We're doing, all those things that go into factor. We don't sell your loans. We can go up to 30 years on financing. We want to make sure it's a good deal, but so my biggest things for anybody new is always account for your 20% down, 15 to 20% down. Leave that money. Find a way to save it however you're going to save it. Whether you're an independent contractor or you work salary and wage, you get a bonus through your job. Be mindful of the 15, 20% down and your FICO score. And you'll see that a lot of these loans will get approved through that basis, because that's what factors into the smaller loans. And then once you are able to obviously get that piece of property, you're working towards the next one. Not everybody can start with 100 acres. You may start with 20, but
I started with 12 and a house trailer, first track I ever bought.
That's right. And so that's, every deal is different that comes through the door. So it's hard to be so far in depth as to what you need. But the best advice I can give you is the 15 to 20% down in FICO score. that's what factors into the majority of what we do on these smaller type loans.
So if I'm getting $100,000 loan, I gotta have 15,000 or 20,000 down. How do y'all do, Alex, as far, and I know this, but I'm gonna ask for our viewers, okay, you do monthly? Is it a bi-monthly?
So,
how do y'all do that?
So
payments?
that's right. So essentially, most cases we like to try and do monthly. We have other payment options in place, like quarterly or annual payments. It depends on income. If you got a full-time farmer in there making his income on selling, cows, we could set him up on a quarterly payment. Most cases, always remember, we're kind of a financial advisor on the side. We want to see people knock interest down or knock principal down as fast as they can. So we have different options, but once again, it's one of those things. You come in here and you sit down with us and you sell cows every quarter and that's where your income comes from. Well, then I understand, but we do have different options for folks that want them. But there are cases, and like I said, this is raw, transparent. I want to be, I'm going to try and push someone to a monthly payment just because we never have to worry, especially younger guys, when we talk about new loans and younger guys, just so they get used to making that payment, because you never want to put them behind the 8 ball to be late on a quarterly payment or a semi-annual payment or annual payment. I always try to tell people, try and act as a financial advisor. I'm gonna look in your best interest, because the way we factor a lot of this stuff is on monthly income, what they're making a month and here's what they make, here's their expenses, here's what they got left over. So it's kind of like a financial advisor approach.
And y'all can just pull that right off, electronic fund transfer on that.
Yeah, that's right. We have, man, we have, due to the pandemic, we have increased our technology beyond, and I got to give our former CEO, Joe Heyman, and our new CEO, Philip Morgan, just kudos on this, man. One thing that I will say Farm Credit was behind on was the technology basis of everything. We did, that's why my slogan is, it's an old school feel with a new school touch now, because we have that new technology, but you're still getting, that relationship with your loan officer. But man, we've got online banking now. We've got auto draft programs. We have a whole new software program that's just brought in for help us trying to keep these things rolling. I want to give her a shout out, Amanda Hudson. She converted. Matter of fact, I took her role at Southern Ag Credit, and she converted to this new role. So the technology we have now is second to none. I would compare us with any commercial bank. That we're this close, which is really exciting. We've played with it a few times. We've actually done it a few times. I think I've mentioned this to you, is online approvals for smaller loans.
Yeah, you did.
We've done a few of them early. We're still trying to perfect that, but man, when that goes, man, we're talking about you guys having the opportunity to be in the field to allow these guys, hey, taking the lunch after you show them a piece of property.
And when people make offers, they can make offers that get pre-approved. I did it last night, or I did this morning before I came and met you.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Just being able to. So I got to give kudos to our CEO who moved over to another lender. He took over one of the largest farm credits in all of the country. And Joe Heyman, and then Philip Morgan, who's come in this thing, and our new CEO, and just embraced it and tackled it head on. And man, can you imagine? I think about that all the time, being a realtor. How many times I spent the day with somebody showing 3 or 4 tracks, and then you go get lunch, and you just, the whole time, it's a Saturday or a Sunday, and you want them to talk to the loan officer and get lending and get everything lined up, and you're like, man, I can't wait till Monday. Because you want to know if the deal's going to work. But you
want to know if you worked in vain.
That's right. I had this vision in my mind that sitting at a small mom and pop restaurant here in Centerville, and somebody saying, "Yeah, man, I'm ready to apply," and they go through and they apply, and they can able to get some kind of approval on something like that. So we're headed in that direction, and we've kudos to all that, just catching up with the times and where we're headed.
Well, a couple questions I had written down here, and I can answer some of them for Alex. So, as far as your down payments, Alex said 15 or 20%.
Yeah.
Now, that's not our only options.
That's right. That's right.
If you have a tract of land that you already have paid.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that. We do that a lot of times, man. Not all cash is green. So what you don't have, there's a lot of these loans we do that somebody owns, a little 20 or 30, or I say 10 acres and up track. We did one last year, me and you, it was $1 million purchase. Had like 12 acres over a little 12 acre block. And they were like, man, I'm telling, we weren't real sure of the value, but they were telling us, man, I'm telling you, it's worth $120,000. I said, man, started playing numbers in my head. I said, this thing, it's not going to work. And then that appraisal came back. So getting off the beaten path there. Yeah. So if you got, kind of what we call agricultural real estate, 10 acres and up, we can absolutely use that as the equity in that property to,
if you own another piece of property, 10 acres and up, so you can't, if you own your house, you can't.
Right, we try and stay, if it's 10 acres in your house where you're living, I'm not crazy about that deal, but you deal with a lot of folks like this that have, an actual agricultural piece of property laying around. And yeah, we can use that. We, majority of the time when we get involved with that, I know what I do, we'll get an appraisal on it, we'll get an appraisal on the new place, and we'll do what we can to loan them 100% of what they need, including closing costs. I call it the sign and drive deal. And, they get the same rate, they get everything the same, and as long as they're, we have times, as long as they're practicing good repayment with us and get good history with us, 5 or 6 years, man, as long as we're in 80% loan to value, sometimes we'll consider releasing the original collateral to to let them go do the next thing that they want to do. So, but yeah, it's a good point. People, I said it earlier, it's hardest part to get over is the 15 to 20% down. But
there is other options.
Yeah, and when sometimes it's mom and daddy. We talk about we go back to the young guys. The 22, 23-year-olds. Yeah, my mom owns 40 acres. Can we put that up? Absolutely.
Yeah,
if she's willing to sign with it, and or 20 acres or whatever. So
and it's if it's a grandparent or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
mom, pop, it's not like they're putting a lien against their property, of course, but it's not costing them anything if they own it.
No, absolutely
so
not.
it's not a bad deal.
No, it's just in the event of the bank covering its backside, so to speak, that in the event of default, you lose both. But that's why we go through the vigorous process of getting them approved. And I say, I don't want to use that as a word to describe it, because our process is really not bad, but what our underwriting expectations are. So, yeah. I mean, if you got somebody that's willing to pledge a piece of property, or you got a piece of property that you're willing to pledge as additional collateral, more power to you. We'll do title work on both of them, and we'll drive on into the sunset.
I had wrote down timber on here, so I'm doing a track right now with Alex, and I'm cutting some timber. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put in my funds held account that timber that I'm cutting, and it'll pay my payments for up to a year. They'll put up to a year's worth of payments, and that thing pays interest. So It's an interest-bearing account.
So we have, that's right. If you're a full-time farmer with us, somebody doing poultry or cattle or row crop, we can hold, there's no max. There's, they can put as much as they want to in the funds held. But with anybody who is not relying strictly on farming income, whether it be timber or whatever, you're considered a part-time farmer, allowing us to hold up to a year's worth of payments. In the timber stuff, when it comes to that, if you're not in the business of it, I'm not crazy about, not saying we won't, depending on loan to values, but we like to see them pay down on principal and put down or factor it back towards your loan, kind of like what you're wanting to do. So it's you're right. It's we get those sometimes we get those cases where folks are just out there hacking timber, and they just took all the money and we didn't let us know anything, and those are the ones that we're not crazy about. But yeah, with somebody who's got timber on there, and you're harvesting that timber and you're managing that property better, and applying it back to your principal balance, or just keeping us in the loop, because like I said, it's a relationship all the way through. I am the vice president in lending, but I am your loan officer at the time too, so I need to be in the loop when things are going on, which you've done an excellent job. But be mindful of those things with any farm credit you're dealing with, across this country. Keep them in the loop of what they're doing, because remember the collateral is got a lien against it. It's the collateral being used to loan you the money. Be sure and relay any information with your loan officer, because they're going to help guide you, and they're going to put you in a position to try and get the thing paid off as quick as they can.
So one quick thing, and I ran into this, and I will let my viewers know. So a listener, it does not work like this. You can't buy $100,000 tract of land and go cut $20,000 timber for your down payment. It doesn't work
That's
like
right,
that because that is included in what the property's value is.
Right. Man, you bring up some good topics that I think are great to talk about that I've always tell myself I need to pay attention to because they pop up at you. That's one question we get a lot is that, you realize somebody's getting a good deal and somebody's got some good timber, and that's the first thing they'll ask, hey, if I cut the timber, can I put it back? No, the answer is to that is, either you got the additional collateral that we can take a lien against, the 10 acres or, whatever the real estate, or, the 15 or 20% down. And, but that is a good question. That's probably a question I get asked, 2 or 3 times a month, we're here to help, but, we also have to be
and every deal is different.
You gotta be in a good position at the bank too. I always remember those old bad banks are going to make sure they're covering their backsides too. So it's
that's how they stay in business.
That's it. Sometimes we're the good guys, sometimes we're the bad guys. Most of the time, good guys. But yeah, that is a question we do get asked a lot that people need to know. You're not going to be able to do something like that.
All right, Alex. I know that if you've got for instance, like my brother who owns a piece of cattle land, I know that y'all can do, buying and selling cattle and do loans on that. Okay. Yeah. So, I know you can do that as far as that kind of farming, if it's crop or if it's cattle or things like that.
We got full-time timber farmers too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm a guy who has a timber tract, hunting tract. I'm cutting timber, doing that sort of thing. Can Southern Ag Credit help me with my loan on my tractor?
Absolutely. We have a lot of conversations on this, and it's a good conversation that's being brought to the forefront. It's hard, and there's no secret about this, Slade. Kubota and what John Deere are doing right now, 0%. I've had the customer come in and just be bound and determined Southern Ag Credit do the loan. That's fine, but I am very transparent in that fact. Hey, man, you want a tractor? You can go right here next door, 0% Sunbelt, and. We finance equipment, but where we benefit that factor into it is the used equipment. It's newer equipment, but it's used, so it's not going to be eligible for the 0%, so to speak, at John Deere or anything. But
is that any type? When you say equipment, okay, I can do a tractor. I assume a disc, bush hog, stuff like that.
Tractor.
What about side by side?
No, well, my compliance officer probably kicked me in the head for saying this. I've never done it, but if it was a full-time farmer, yeah, absolutely. Anything, we're their bank, and not as, and I say he'll kick me in the head. That was actually the right comment to make there, but you get some guys who come in and ask for that. I don't do them a whole lot. I don't think we can on side by sides, but the equipment side of it, yeah, pretty heavily.
All right, I buy 100 acres of land in Adams County, and I want to put a camp or a mobile home. You've got my loan. What's my option?
That's a good question. So we do, believe it or not, probably I'm one of the main ones that do it, but we actually do construction loans for a home if somebody really wanted to. So our slogan here at Southern Ag is financing life outside the city limits. And that includes the recreational, the farming, agriculture, but also houses. So we do camp loans and house loans all the time. We have the same process where we do interest only payments for a year on a house. So until it's done. Now, as far as the mobile homes go, that's an interesting point. And this seems to be a heavy topic that's been since January 1. I don't know what it is, but the past 4 or 5 loans I've had a mobile home on. And me and you got one right now that we're closing right now. As a matter of fact, just to educate our viewers, there was no value given on that thing because, and this is really good for our viewers, if the tongue and axles have been removed from the mobile home and they have applied in the county, it's called an asphyxiation, to say it's actually permanent to the real estate, we can then value it. I learned a lot of it. I thought I should know all this, but I didn't even know about filing in the courthouse about asphyxiation. But that's a prime example. For our viewers, Slade is selling a 265. and that place has a little camp on it, but that value was not given there because it still has the tongue and axles.
And the place does have value, but
Right.
And I can answer this for Alex. It appraised without the trailer,
That's
we
right.
didn't have to get creative, you know.
That's right. It appraised without the trailer. So, but I say that for our viewers to know, you know, because you do get those people, especially, you know, buying a little 40-acre block and it's got a little, you know, pool behind or a little mobile home on it. And then you get into the appraisal side of things, and a lot of times things appraise out, but then they don't. There's times where you just run into it and they just don't appraise. And they'll say, man, that thing's got a little manufactured home on it. And well, the tongue and axles are still on it. So to answer your question, to go back to, you said, I got a place in Natchez, I'm building a camp. We can build a camp. You're talking about a different monster when somebody says, I want to buy a manufactured home. So there's a process to go through when it comes to manufactured homes, but essentially you're supposed to, I mean, it's kind of like a little equipment loan is what it should run as if it's not permanently attached to the property. So.
Well, Alex, we're getting to about 45 minutes now. You are my first guest, so you are going to be the first one that I ask this question to, and I think I'm going to ask everybody if you do a good job.
That's
no pressure.
No, I got this.
But okay, here's the deal: you win $100 million in the lottery tomorrow. I'm just saying, clean cash, $100 million. You get it. Where are we going to buy land and why?
Whew. So my first response, gut jerk or knee jerk reaction is, you know, Giles Island's for sale. 20 million, I believe.
Yeah. You know, if you get the right realtor, I bet I can negotiate off of that.
There you go. That's right. So, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna pay you a little bonus of 100 million because I think of that place first because travel. But then, you know, so that's why I say it's my knee-jerk reaction. I want to be able to. I don't want to have to travel too far, and I can, you know, the deer, duck, turkey. They have it all out there. I've actually hunted out there before. But man, when I take a step back and realize I got $100 million, I don't have to go to work every day. Mm-hmm. So I can have my own plane and those type of things. So I'm probably, man, I've said for a long time, and my friends in Nebraska, if you're listening to this, Nebraska is a sleeper state for giant whitetails in turkey. I would probably, I'm almost 100% sure I'd say Nebraska. Somewhere in the north central part of Nebraska, I'd get me about 5,000 acres, a good lodge, a heck of a caretaker. You know, you gotta, not living in Nebraska, you gotta have somebody on site. But I've told people for a long time, the values there are not bad. If you ever, I'm just a real estate fan like you are. So I get on y'all side all the time, prime example, and I just, you know, what's land selling for in Kansas or Missouri, you know, but I'd have to say, it'd have to be Nebraska. I'm a huge fan of Nebraska in the Cornhusker state.
All right, what about, are you buying anything locally? I mean, what are we doing? Are we staying where we live? Are we?
Yeah, I love the idea of, Giles Island. I love the idea of an island. Now there's other islands out there you probably, with $100 million, you could probably buy. You know, there's Togo Island. I see hunts out there all the time. I bet they'd take a pretty check if I was willing to double pay for it.
Call Brad and see what's
That's it. I was thinking the same thing. But I like the idea in Mississippi, an island, because
that's where you grew up. That's I get it.
It's the hardest place to hunt in the world, though. And having an island, we can control a lot more. Who's coming? You know, people we can't see while we're there, but also, you know, it's kind of like a glorified high fence when you're on that river like that, and to be able to, you know, control that. Lori just waved at me, so she's happy. She brought us pizza, by the way, so I'm pretty excited about this. But
that's my wife, Lori. She just pulled.
I lost my train of thought there with that pizza, but no. In all seriousness, thinking of the island, you know, the island situation, I definitely would be, you know, somewhere in Mississippi, and I say Giles Island, but you know, there's several islands on the Mississippi River that produce quality whitetails.
So Alex Reiser, the financer of tracts of land in Southwest Mississippi, his choice is knee-jerk reaction is Giles. Then we think about it. Okay, maybe Nebraska, but definitely an island.
I'll sign off of this with that. The factor is mom, grandma, and grandpa, and being close by with my wife. My wife's a homebody, so I think to myself, you know, that's not too far. That, you know, I'd have a premier place to hunt. So, there's a lot of factors that actually go into that question. That's going to be interesting to hear how you ask that question going through from here on out.
Well, whenever if I see that you won on the news $100 million, I'll just go ahead and set my dates for Giles Island next year.
It's free. It'll be free for Slate Place.
All right, Alex. Well, we're kind of finishing up here. Did you have any questions from me? You're the first.
Yeah, man. I'm glad. I hope we can get a few more minutes here, man. I really loving and I want to tell our viewers here. We've talked about I come from the other side. I helped start a company and focused on marketing, and to see where Realtree's headed in United Country and that integration, that was kind of an eye opener, especially in our part of the world. I remember it come up across, we have conference calls all the time, and it came up as a big deal. But, tell me about I'm noticing a Land Master program.
What's the Master Land program?
Master Land, yes, yeah.
So, United Country nationwide franchise, there's 6,000 of us. Not everybody's involved with the Realtree side of it. So if you're involved with the Realtree, you're called a Realtree Land Pro. And I'm on the steering committee. It's I think about 6 or 8 of us on the steering committee across the country of other agents that have kind of been involved with this thing. And we decided that we need a distinction between, if there was somebody super qualified at their job, a master of their job, that they need to be recognized for that. So what you do, you actually have to submit an application. And so I forget the exact, it's like 10 criteria, and you got to meet 7 of them. Maybe it's a certain amount of land sales, your hunting background, maybe you have managed some land and done some things, years in real estate, just a lot of things that make you a master at your trade. I saw this week come across my emails. It's funny, Mr. Don Bales has worked for us. Mr. Don has been my family's biologist and was the Wilkes County biologist, the county agent for a long time. So, a lot of my deer knowledge came from Mr. Don. So as soon as the email come across and there's no point in me reading this. He's a master.
Well, that's what made me ask. When I was riding over here, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I saw he had got the distinction, and I said, what is that? And I was just curious, and I said, well, it makes sense. He's a biologist, and he comes from, you just hit me on the head.
So people listening across the country, if you're looking for a Realtree Land Pro and you do see that they have that designation, Master Land Pro, there's a reason behind it. They didn't just get the logo and get to run with it.
And it's so important, and I know we're getting against the clock here, but it's so important, and I have to harp on this, and I understand it, but guys, when you're out there and you're searching for that property, one thing I always tell people, they always think, hey, I'm going to save money on a commission by not getting representation.
Or getting cheap representation.
Exactly right. Man, it's so important. And why that's a big thing on my mind, why I had to ask is, man, I get we do so many deals, and so many deals come through the door, and some of them, have no realtor involved, or some of them have the cheap realtor who has no experience in it. It's very important, guys, that when you're shopping this stuff, it's worth every penny to be using these guys here, like a Master Land Pro, like Slade at Realtree, the knowledge that they're going to give you, and to really get your end goal. Because most of it's hunting. That's what we're talking. Let's just be honest. We're talking hunting, and I have seen it where people buy something and that property, and they dealt with something a little bit cheaper route or didn't get representation. And we're selling that property 3 or 4 months later because it wasn't the one they were looking for. Didn't fit their needs.
That's the first thing I do when people call, say, okay, what's your budget? What area do you want to be? And what are your goals? Because the deal is, if I'm buying a piece of property, I like to bow hunt whitetail deer. Depending on the area, I at least want to shoot 4-year-olds, if not older. And that's my goal. So a property for me may be different for a buyer A. Buyer A may just say, look, I want a place for my grandkid to come and kill 6 and 8 point bucks. There's nothing wrong with either one of them. Spend your money how you want to. But so that borrower, that client, he doesn't need to spend the money necessarily in a trophy area because that's not his goal.
That's right. And that's why it's so important to say that, guys, get out there, know your realtor, know what their background is, and they are going to steer you in the direction that you need to go in. Get somebody with knowledge. Interview them. It's normal to interview. So make sure that you're out there doing that and getting the right guy that's representing you. So.
Well, Alex, we really appreciate you coming on, man, and we appreciate Southern Ag Credit. They are the title sponsor of this podcast, and we'll be doing this thing all year, different guests. And I just thought that, hey, we're starting this thing out. You know, I know that as people start joining in on this thing throughout the year, you know, people will go back and listen to the first one. And hey, we got to be able to afford the land if we want to buy it and hunt on it. And Alex and Southern Ag Credit is a great way to get you there. Well, I guess that's it. First guest on the Hunting Land Man podcast. I was a little nervous starting out.
Man, I was too, but have fun. Have fun, man. It's going to be exciting to see where you take this thing.
New Ryan, did you learn anything?
Oh, yeah.
New Ryan is ready to buy him a track hunting land. Now look, he's going to make so much money from me. I saw him scrolling on his phone. He's just going to go ahead and buy him something from Alex next week.
That's where we'll make it happen.
Well, man, we appreciate you having you on, Alex. Thank you very much. Let's go eat some pizza.
Have fun, man. Thank you, guys.
Blue.